This is going to be a short video on how to shuck Ipswich clams if you're wanting to use them for fried clams. So we've got to get them out of the shell. So these are fresh Ipswich clams, and the thing that you have to do that isn't always apparent if you want to shuck these is you need to cover them with boiling water for 30 seconds. So we're going to take a big pot of boiling water and pour it over these, and no longer than 30 seconds. We're not trying to cook them. What we're doing is we're loosening them up a little bit, especially we're loosening this membrane that runs around the clam and across the neck, because if you don't do this, if you don't treat them with hot water, it's going to be impossible to remove, or nearly impossible to remove. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I've covered them with boiling water and then counted to 30 seconds and then poured off the boiling water and flooded it with cold water to cool them off a bit. So I've poured off the water and I dumped them out into a tray, and we're going to start chugging them. So you'll notice that a clam has a more pointed end and a rounded end, and the neck or the excurrent and current siphon actually projects from the pointed end. That's where we're going to start. So I'm using a knife that's not terribly sharp. This is a clam knife that's used for opening hard-shelled clams. You can use any knife, just don't use one that's too sharp. You'll see why in a second. So there are two muscles that are holding the shell closed, one that's here and one that's over here. So we're going to start by running the knife up along the top edge of the shell to sever that muscle, and then we're going to continue down along the top edge of the shell to get the one at the bottom, and we're just going to peel that shell off. Okay, and now we want to cut through that muscle and free the meat from the shell. So we're going to go start in the same spot right over here where the one muscle attaches, and now I'm pushing the knife down under the clam and go over here and get the other muscle. All right, and we get to there. Now we're free, and we have what's left is the clam here, and you'll see the membrane that goes around the clam is here. If we had not put these in boiling water, that would not be loose. That would be firmly adhering to here, and you'd have a very hard time cutting it off. If we're going to make these into fried clams are generally cooked with the necks trimmed. So I'm just going to cut this off right here, and this is why we want not too sharp a knife. You don't want to go right through your thumb with it, and that peels off the skin, and we're just going to discard that down here. You should have a kind of a complete ring left. Here's the belly of the clam, and then the trimmed neck. If this is particularly sandy, you can rinse it in some water. This particular batch happens to be pretty clean, and there's one little piece here that I'll pull out. This is something called the style. You don't have to pull that out. It's not a worm. It's part of the clam, and it's part of most mollusks. And this is actually prized in the Caribbean by people who shell conch. They think that eating conch styles, the guys who do it anyway, think it makes them virile. So anyway, that's certainly edible, but this is what we're looking for here. We'll throw it out, okay? All right, we'll do one more, and I'll see if I can get this a little closer. All right, so right up under the edge here, we're getting that first muscle, all right, severed right there, and come down around and pick up the other muscle at the bottom, peel off the shell, and then go back here, do the same thing, get that muscle again, the bottom attachment, and down here, and we're out of the shell. And then we just trim the neck and peel off the membrane at the same time, and we're done. All right, so do a couple more. Yep, got out of my hands. All right, trim that muscle. Trim this muscle over here. Trim the neck. There we go. All right, again, start at the pointy end. We're gonna get that muscle, pick up the other muscle, take off the top shell, remove that muscle from the bottom half of the shell and the other muscle, trim the neck, and that's it.